again. Everyone seemed to be speaking on this, and well, keep in mind, Arise News was among the very first to go into that Kuriga community with the governor of Kaduna State, and pretty much later we'll be digging deep to speak with our correspondent to find out latest developments. Well, I understand Nisi Gabriel is there now, live, monitoring this story in Kaduna. And good to see you, Nisi. And a lot of people are already on this. The president has spoken, and the first lady, you also saw Gordon Brown earlier on, speaking on the same issue. What is the latest concerning the abducted students in Kuriga? Has any rescue been made so far?
Well, thank you for having me tonight. Well, government officials at this point are not really saying much. It is believed that they do not want to jeopardize rescue efforts going on by security forces. But we don't understand that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tarid Laguja, visited the community earlier today for an operational visit. And it is also expected that more troops will be deployed to that location to hasten this rescue mission as soon as possible. The abducted students, it is also important to point out that the abducted students from the LEA primary and secondary school range from 5 to 19 years old, comprising both males and females. Very important to state their gender and their age bracket. And as a matter of fact, the Kaduna State governor, in the person of Ubasani, did say that the National Security Advisor has assured him that efforts are ongoing to rescue the children as soon as possible. Well, yesterday when we visited the scene with the governor, he did reiterate his stance on state police. As we all know, the governor of Kaduna State has been a strong advocate for state police. Let's take a listen. Let's listen to what he had to say yesterday while he was addressing locals.
I am one of the prominent voices on the issue of security. When I was in the Senate, I moved the motion for the creation of state police. We have realized that there are not enough men on ground. That is why we feel that with state police, every community, like Kuriga, will have people in the police and they would be armed with AK-47 rifles. That is the only way we would be able to protect the lives and property of the citizens. The vigilantes are not as armed as the bandits because they have AK-47. That is why the bandits are constantly causing us destruction. They come in to humiliate, kill and abduct our citizens. Since I received the sad news of this incident, I have not had rest of mind because every child in Kaduna State is my child. So I don't want you people to be disturbed. Let's all pray to God to help. And on our part as a government, we will not rest until these children return home. We are going to select 7 people from this community who will be part of a committee where we will be having discussions.
Nisi, I mean, one understands the emotions there from the governor of Kaduna State, Ubasani, who, does not miss any opportunity to underscore the need for state police. But the same question I asked you yesterday, let's, see if we can get any logical answers to how, this number of people were taken out from that school without being apprehended, without being cited by any of the security operatives. How did they live? Did they live with the camels, with motorcycles, with vehicles? What exactly can you tell us?
Well, in responding to that question, I would say it has to do with the terrain. That terrain is very difficult. It's a difficult terrain, I must say, because when you look at the modus operandi of the bandits, the way they operate, you always discover that they come in motorcycles, in motorbikes, and once they have a soft target, they keep their motorcycle miles away from their soft targets, and they come barefooted. After executing their operation, they walk with those abducted miles into the bush where they have their motorcycles and they move with them to neighboring communities or neighboring states. Well, another issue with this part of the country is that we have a lot of ungoverned spaces, several ungoverned spaces. During our trip to Kuriga community, we discovered vast lands of ungoverned spaces, and it goes back to the issue of the failure of local governments, because our local governments have really failed. A lot of deficits, infrastructure deficits in our local governments. And also when we're going, I observed something. On our way to that community, you could observe locals climbing to a hilltop just to get network to make phone calls. That's how difficult that terrain is. Right here in the metropolis, if you want to get information about what's happening there, you can't reach anybody. No phone calls. Phone calls cannot go through because network there is really bad. It's terrible. So it underscores the terrain, how difficult it is to actually operate in such a terrain. And for the troops, like when we were there, we did observe that one of the vigilantes followed the bandits to a distance before he lost his life. So that is just me painting a picture of how difficult that terrain is and how these bandits operate unhurt or unchallenged, because that terrain is also difficult for the military to operate. Also, earlier in the day, in trying to provide solutions to these attacks, I spoke to a security expert in Kaduna here, and he also says that more needs to be done in terms of intelligence gathering. Let's take a listen.
You get information. If with one single information, you'll be able to do a job, I keep on saying, a section of the military, army, is the smallest section. If you have the correct intelligence report, pinpoint, accurate report, a section can do the job that you are going to push a company. When I say a company, it's a chunk of well over 100 or something people. They will be able to do that job because they know where they are going. They are not going to waste time looking for their light right. They are heading straight to that place and they will do the job. And this is exactly what is lacking.
Well, Nisi, what other information do you have for us? Specifically, we understand there's news from the Office of the Vice President.
Well, yes, information we are receiving is that the Vice President is expected to arrive Kaduna tomorrow, and what is expected of him is that he's going to sympathize with the people of Kaduna State, the governor, and the parents of those who have been affected. Well, as is now a usual routine for the presidency to always come to Kaduna State in times like this. Remember, during the military drone attack in Tudubiri, the Vice President also visited to sympathize with the state government and the people of Kaduna State. So, largely, we are expecting the Vice President tomorrow, but it's not yet clear if he's going to visit the community, the affected community. But in my opinion, I doubt if he will be going there tomorrow.
We'll see how things pan out. Nisi Gabriel, thank you very much for giving us that update. We can only hope that safety returns not only in that part of the country, but as a matter of fact, in every part of Nigeria. We're also joined now by Kabir Adamu, a security analyst and chief executive officer of Beacon Consulting. Kabir Adamu, it's so good to see you always. But unfortunately, this is
terrible circumstances.
Yeah, and it's become so constant that it's almost as if we're numb. Are we numb to it? Because you know why I ask that? You would expect that something as grievous, as serious as this, that there will be some kind of incident center where maybe the National Security Advisor, all the security apparatus will come out in full force to not only tell Nigerians, what exactly the situation is, but what they're doing to bring back these kids and to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Let me start by sympathizing, of course, with the families of the victims, and then, of course, to commend you, the role you play at the 4th estate of the realm. It's absolutely important. This issue shouldn't be accepted. Kids who went out early morning, 7:40 a.m., they left their parents. We're talking of 8-year-olds to maybe 15, 16. Now 200 of them are in the hands of non-state actors. Now 2014, the same incident happened, and the entire world was behind us. That particular incident, Chibok, created several consequences, including possibly causing a government. And then how many years down the road? 10 years down the road, we're back there. The same incident is happening. And like your correspondent in Kaduna mentioned, those are the features. So it's not as if we don't know what happened, what led to it. We know. What worries me is how we are managing the consequence. This incident happened yesterday morning. Up until now, I'm not aware that a single person within the security architecture has been held responsible. In other climes, 1 or 2 persons will be told to step aside, an investigation will be conducted. What happened? What led to it? Unfortunately, we're not seeing that, and we're not likely to see it. So those are the kind of things that worry me. Yes, at the federal level, there is a need for the creation of some committee, as it were, or even for the National Security Council to sit. The matter is that important. We're talking of 200 plus of our children who have gone missing and are in a forest, because it's not as if we don't know where they are. We know where they are. What the challenge is how to get them out, safely. Perhaps in the course of the conversation, we can talk about what led to where we are at the moment.
Yeah. Listening to you, this is deja vu. We've seen it before, and it's exactly 10 years, because Chibok happened in April of 2014, and this is almost the middle of March of 2024. So, and the numbers were almost the same, 270 something, and now almost 280. Yeah. What are we missing here? Like?
In simple terms, accountability. I mean, I can talk about a lot of things, but accountability. The day we start holding members of the security sector accountable, there are roughly about 29 ministries, departments, and agencies in security, and each of them has its mandate spelled out constitutionally, because they are not just existing, they are existing with a mandate, and that mandate is very clear. Now, in this instance, we're talking about internal security, we're talking about this protection of a school. Now, there are departments that have that responsibility, and they failed. I don't want to mince water around that. We've gone through the Safe School Initiative. We went through the Safe School Declaration. The latest one is the policy on safe schools, plus the guideline that was launched in 2019. We gathered the entire world here in Abuja, and we launched that document. Now, almost 3 or 4 years down the road, where are we in the implementation of that document? So accountability. Education, I think, is in the concurrent list. Both the federal, the state, and the non-existent local government have responsibility. I know that northern states in particular have taken this issue seriously. In fact, I can quote almost verbatim the immediate past governor of Kaduna State when he told the world that he has shut down schools that were vulnerable. And to be fair to him, he conducted an assessment, identified the schools that were vulnerable, closed some of them down, and then moved the pupil to schools that were less vulnerable. And then in some instances, from boarding schools, they turned them to day schools.
Kuriga, yeah, it was the same thing. They moved away from the unsafe area to where...
This is where I was heading to, Ngozi. Kuriga is close to Birningwari.
Right.
Everybody in Nigeria is aware of the risk in Birningwari. Birningwari is almost as good as governed by the bandits. Consistently over time, we know this. In fact, commuters who travel between, let's say, Abuja and Lagos will never pass Birningwari Road. Because on a daily basis... So if we
all know that, how come, why are security operatives not making that Birningwari area a focus?
Accountability.
Okay, great.
That's what I'm talking about. If we know this things, not too long ago, the UN, and in fact before the UN, as far back as 4 years ago, I was privy to a document that showed all the camps where these bandits are domiciled. And then, assuming we don't know this, the UN a few months ago reminded us. And what did they do? They engaged researchers. There are Nigerians who have that knowledge. They engaged them, they helped them, they documented it, they made it public. So I don't want us to leave here with the impression that we don't know. We know. We know who the threat actors are. We know how they operate. The missing element is that accountability. Go after them, deny them the space to operate. And there are three things, honestly. Number one, their ability to recruit. Number two, their ability to get weapons. And then number three, their ability to operate. What do they use? Bikes. In this instance, it was bikes they used. They came to that location on bikes. They abducted those kids. Their parents were seeing those kids being herded into the bush. Come on, guys.
Now it breaks my heart now that you just told the world that we know where they are. It's quite different from that fable of Sambisa Forest, a forest of no return. So this is not Sambisa. They know the area. And again, in times like this, that it is almost difficult for a lot of people in communities to get petrol.
How
and
do
you
they
see
access?
hundreds of bikes, petrol-propelled bikes. What exactly, truly, because it comes back to how you started, accountability. Who or what agencies should be asked questions as we speak? Because we have so many pointers that should have averted this.
So many things went wrong. And let me start with the state governors. I had the Kaduna state governor. He spoke like a pained man. I could see the pain. So I sympathize with him. But beyond that, there are several things that he could have done. We spoke about the school. Conduct a vulnerability assessment, identify schools that are vulnerable, and then I'm not sure if you spoke to Nisi about it, but Nisi would have told you that the only police formation in Kuriga was abandoned. Yeah. At the point that formation was abandoned, that location was vulnerable. So those students were actually waiting to be picked. And now that they've been picked, somebody should be held responsible. Who authorized the movement of that police formation in Kuriga to another location? And then security runs across a conduit of 6 points. I don't know if time would allow me.
Yeah, please go.
So the 6 points, they are called the 3 Ds and the 3 Rs of security. Right. Every security arrangement, in the minimum, should meet those six components. And that is the kind of audit that I expect every governor to conduct. We've offered that to a lot of the governors. Conduct that audit. For God's sake, these children are your responsibility. The moment a child goes to a public school, it's the responsibility of the governor in that state. Of course, the responsibility can extend to the presidency. So that's number one, when you ask me accountability. Number two, we've seen recently this proliferation of vigilantes. It's a challenge. I sat down here about a month ago, and I challenged, as it were, the Inspector General of Police and the Office of the National Security Advisor to produce a document that will show us the number of vigilantes that we have in Nigeria. I don't think we'll be able to do that. Now, the atrocities that are being committed by these vigilantes, they are going to create a monster that, if we're not careful, will eat us up. Zamfara, the challenge that we have in Zamfara emanated from the creation of vigilantes. The vigilantes are created without any, scientific approach to it. And then, of course, without the observance of the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Ethnic groups are not represented. So a particular ethnic group feel it is isolated. It now goes and creates its own ethnic militia, arm them, and then before you know it, they start fighting.
So this has
themselves.
multiple
consequences.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's crazy.
And it's triggering some of what we're seeing.
So what's the third one?
Absolutely, yeah.
The third one is also inability as citizens to participate within the security process.
How do we participate?
Sharing intelligence is not plucked from the sky.
Yeah.
Intelligence is within us. Now we need to be able to share that intelligence with our public security. I have looked at the beautiful policies that are contained in the Renewed Hope agenda, and as a security specialist expert, I can tell you that those policies are good. The missing link is in the implementation, and I'm hoping...
The governor of Kaduna State continues to underscore the need for state policing. Do you agree with him on that score, that that is the way to go? And I know you might not want to talk about the political angle of this whole, security situation. Is there a political leaning
There's
to
always
this resurgence?
There's always a political leaning.
And, you know, this,
In February and of course in March, when we did our risk spectrum in Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, we identified all the potential risks. And I'm hoping that's what the Office of the National Security Advisor would have done. Identify all the potential risks. If APC retains power, what would be the likely risk consequences? If APC wins, but then there is this series of litigation, what would be the likely risk consequences? So we did a risk spectrum. And then when the infamous all eyes on the judges came up, we also did a risk spectrum. When the issue of the integrity of the judges also came up, we did a risk spectrum. Because time would not allow me, I'll tell you these risk components are divided into basically 4 areas. Politics is one of them. Security itself is another one. Social, the socio-economic circumstances that we are at the moment. And then, of course, the economic consequences, the criminal circumstances surrounding that. So as a politician, I've lost the elections. I'm aggrieved. I've invested all my money. And then I said, well, let everybody go
let it burn.
Exactly.
But again, because now we're almost running out of time, let's bring it back to the police. Because listening to you talking about the police post or police station, every time we come here, we talk about these things. It seems as if we don't have an IG or we don't have a police or a commissioner of police. Where is the police in all of this problem?
If I was the Speaker of the House of Rep or the Senate President, I will, in a very clear manner, ask for accountability. The Inspector General of Police need to answer to Nigerians why was this incident allowed to happen. And then he also should query the Commissioner of Police in Kaduna, who in turn should query the DPO who is in charge of that particular ward. Let it trickle down like that. The President has issued a very clear directive. Bring out those guys. But we need to manage the consequences. Somebody dropped the ball. That person should be held accountable. I was on this station after Kuji. I said the same thing. After the attack on the train, I said the same thing. Now I'm repeating it how many years down the road? Come on, guys, let's wake up. This accountability, the security sector needs accountability.
Terror is not even at the doorstep of the police. Unfortunately, it seems to be the military that stepped in.
So
Can we really, you know...
there is a counter-terrorism center, and as far as I know, we have an NACTES, that's the National Security, National Counterterrorism Strategy. That strategy includes you and I.
Oh.
Yes. Every element of society is included in that strategy. But what we haven't done as a country is to review our implementation of that strategy. Why is it that it's the military that is leading? And of recent, I love the guys who are at the top of the military hierarchy now. They speak about non-kinetic and non-kinetic. This is what we need to do. Why are we not implementing that national counterterrorism strategy? Why is it that security is deployed in concentric cycles. You take, you hold, and you rebuild. The military is doing all of it. And what's the number of the military? So I say this repeatedly. We have the answers. We are not dumb. We have the answers. It's all about implementation, accountability. I
think it's a fine place for us to leave it, and truly the Nigeria police also, especially once you have been able to retake, you need to move in and secure that. That's why the IG and his men should be speaking to Nigerians.
Forested areas. We need to take over those forested areas.
Absolutely.
Deny them the ability to operate.
Dr. Kabir, I think it's something that we'll always look, and we really must thank you for your time, for always obliging us. Many thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me too.